Hey guys, I'm back recording another reaction video. I did one recently on a video that the Try Guys posted, and then this video got suggested to me, which is called I Tried to Master Chess in 30 Days. And this is from a YouTube channel called GoalGuys. And the video looked pretty interesting. At first I thought this was the guy who challenged Magnus last year to a match after studying for something like 30 days. And he didn't really get very far. But no, that is a different guy. So this is a different guy who's trying to master chess in 30 days. And yeah, looked like fun. So let's take a look.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Today, I'm at the Annex Chess Society to play my first match in almost 10 years. My opponent Salim is a 1500 ranked player with just over 2 years tournament experience. As for myself, I basically know how the pieces move.
Okay, so it sounds like he hasn't played in like 10 years, and he just said he just knows how the pieces move. So he basically knows the rules and that's it. I mean, it's probably just like not possible to master chess in 30 days for someone who's like at this level or like a total beginner. I mean, basically it's very hard to become world class in anything in 30 days. But okay, his opponent seems like, I think he said he was like 1500 like experienced tournament player. So this is cool that he's playing someone at least you know, somewhat closer to his level, though still much stronger.
For this challenge, I want to see how much I can improve my skill at a game as studied and complicated as chess in just 30 days.
Oh, okay, so yeah, that's a much better goal. He's not trying to actually necessarily get to like 2200 in 30 days, which I think is kind of impossible, but rather just to see how far he can get in 30 days. Yeah, which is a much more achievable and I think a much more productive goal. Just see how far you can go. So that's cool. His last move, knight e5, doesn't seem so good. I mean, so far he was doing okay, but then this is kind of like moving the same piece twice in the opening, which hopefully they tell him not to do. I think black should just go d6 here and just kick the knight away. Yeah, nice move. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
Okay, you just
By
hung his
move
queen.
18, I've made a major blunder, and from here, it's just a slow descent into...
Let's checkmate.
Yes.
Okay, but yeah, that's obviously to be expected for someone who like hasn't played chess in 10 years against a guy who like has been playing in tournaments and like knows notation. I mean, is like a solid player. So yeah, obviously he's not going to start out really strong.
After mopping the floor with me in our first game, Salim was generous enough to walk me back through the game and point out some of my mistakes. His first point of advice was to imagine the board in 3 dimensions, with the center of the board representing the high ground. Whoever controls the center of the board will essentially control the game throughout the early stages. With it...
Okay, that's a really interesting way to put it, especially for people who are like familiar with video games. Yeah, the center can be described like the high ground. It is kind of the most important part of the board. Especially in the opening.
With this in mind, my first couple of moves actually went fairly well. I started out with d4 and defended it by going knight f3, bishop g5. From here, I got into trouble because I started moving my knight around when I should have been concentrating on developing my other pieces and building a solid board position.
Absolutely correct.
Secondly, it's important to understand the value of each piece you're playing with my major mistake in the game coming when I opted to trade my queen for a rook, a decision that was, well, bad.
Oh, he didn't blunder his queen. He actually decided to trade the queen for the rook. Okay, so clearly he just wasn't familiar with piece values. Of course, it's a bad move, but yeah, now he'll know not to give away his queen like this.
Chess breaks down basically into major and minor pieces, with your knight and your bishop being the minor pieces, while your 2 rooks and your queen are major pieces. Your pawns are, well, pawns, but even their value isn't distributed equally, with pawns closer to the center of the board being slightly more valuable than those towards the outside. So if you were in an opening strategy similar to, say, this, in this scenario, trading pawns might actually be slightly to black's advantage rather than white. So from here...
Wait, that was, oh, I think you mentioned this in the comments. Yeah, that position was actually terrible for black.
And actually be slightly to black's advantage.
Yeah, he's saying like here, if we go e takes f5, gf, that's good for black because black is giving away a g pawn, a side pawn for a center pawn in the center. But he forgot that after queen h5 check there, it's basically pretty good for white. Okay, but his point is correct. Normally, we're trying to not give away our center pawns for flank pawns, and vice versa. Normally, we are trying to trade our flank pawns for center pawns, except where tactically, it doesn't work out. But yeah, that's a funny mistake.
So from here, I think my best course of action is to try and develop a solid opening game strategy, so I'm not digging myself into a hole right off the bat. For me, this will mean reading a lot of chess books, watching videos, and trying to find a style that fits with the way I feel most comfortable playing the game.
Okay, that's a pretty reasonable strategy. So he basically just wants to focus on openings and develop a good opening play to pursue chess. I mean, I think if you only have 30 days and you're kind of a total beginner, you definitely need some kind of basic opening repertoire. So I think that is quite a reasonable idea. I also hope he continues to play games with his training partner, because I think that's actually going to be that would be one of the most useful things you can do over the course of 30 days, is to just play a ton of games against someone who's like stronger than you, and then most importantly have them break down the game afterwards and explain why exactly you're losing to them and what you should be working on. That's kind of like, I think, the best way to get very, very quick feedback about your play.
Here we go.
All right.
I start by reading through a collection of books I borrowed from the Annex Chess Club, as well as one I...
Okay, what was this? The Art of Planning, Development of a Chess Master, Checkmate Strategies. Not sure how great these books are for beginners.
bought myself, called Bobby Fischer Teaches Chess.
Yeah, this book is actually not such a great book for beginners. I mean, it's basically, I think it might go over like the rules of chess or something, but it's mostly just like a puzzle book with a bunch of tactics. I mean, the tactics are pretty useful, but it's not really like, Bobby Fischer teaching like strategy. I think a much better book is, of course, Fischer's My 60 Memorable Games, where he actually goes over a bunch of his games and explains like the ideas behind everything. That is, much closer to Bobby Fischer teaching chess than this book. I really didn't like it.
This young man's name is Bobby Fischer. He is 15 years old. He is the United States chess champion.
In the 1950s, Bobby Fischer was a chess prodigy. He won his first U.S. championship at the age of 14, and a year later was named Grand Master, the youngest ever at the time to do so. Fischer's prodigy status, as well as his future success on the international stage, made him infamous in American chess circles, with his name and life providing the source material for multiple films, biopics, and documentaries.
Tobey Maguire. Nice.
While Bobby Fischer never...
I don't know if he was infamous in U.S. chess circles. I mean, as a player, people believe he's one of the best players of all time. What made him infamous was like his off-the-board antics. But okay, that's a completely separate subject.
Wrote this book. It remains the only chess book he lent his name to during his long career. Fischer...
That's not true. I don't know where you got that. No, Fischer actually wrote like a full chess book, My 60 Memorable Games, that I really like. I recommend to almost everyone.
He was consistent in his opening game strategies, beginning nearly every match with e4, claiming it was the best by test.
That's true. Fischer did say that. He was a very consistent
Since
e4
then,
player.
modern chess databases have run the numbers and figured out that d4 is actually slightly more consistent in win shares by an average of like 1.3%. Either way, I think I'll be fine embracing Fischer's approach, and I'm going to try and familiarize myself with as many opening strategies that develop from the e4 position.
Okay, yeah, he mentioned that d4 scores like 1% better, but this is basically irrelevant. Yeah, the most important thing when choosing what move you want to play in move one is basically what kind of position you want to get. If you want to get a more of an open direct game, you should be playing e4. If you want more of a closed maneuvering strategic game, you should be playing like d4 or one knight f3. I would say for most players, if you're trying to, let's say, maximize your chess potential in the long run, you should start off by learning one e4. This is kind of the more fundamental move, and a lot of history associated with this move. And then later, if you feel like one d4 is more suitable for your style, like if you're a slower, more strategic player, then you can switch to one d4 and start learning one d4 openings. However, if you're just a casual player and you're just trying to get into the game and just survive the opening and actually just like focus on the chess part, middle games, tactics, end games, then I would suggest just starting off with one d4 because it's a lot safer, a lot fewer opening traps, a lot easier to learn. And basically, like he played in his first game, just d4, knight f3, bishop g5. And as long as you just develop your pieces, you play like the London or the Tory attack. There's a lot of very simple ways for white to just get all the pieces out and then just get into a pretty normal chess game. So depending on what you're trying to achieve and what kind of positions you enjoy playing, that's what kind of informs your whether you should play one e4 or one d4, and not so much like the percentages.
I test my understanding of basic chess openings against a computer. My first goal is to memorize some of the variations around the Ruy Lopez, or at least become familiar with each of them. Next, I try my hand at the Italian game to figure out what kind of positions and lines it creates.
Yeah, so this is a pretty common mistake that players make because they see e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 as the Italian game, and then they assume that this setup with e4, knight f3, bishop c4 is the Italian. But this is something completely different. With black having played e6, it started off as a French, but then black played knight c6. Basically, the computer is just kind of improvising here. It's not really playing any kind of setup. And okay, this isn't really characterized as any normal opening. White should just take the center and fight for space. Yeah, I would definitely say that this is not a great way to learn openings. Especially given that like computer level 4 on chess.com is just going to be making random moves in the opening. A much better way is to use like their opening explorer or just to watch like specific videos on basic openings that will cover all of these lines in detail.
Then I went back to the Annex Chess Club to see if what I learned had any effect.
Good.
So I went and played in a couple chess meetups this week, and I'm starting to realize that just diligently memorizing opening moves isn't a great way to learn the game, as a lot of my opponents opted for less traditional openings, and I made really bad judgment calls against them. I'm starting to realize it's much more important to know the reason behind the move than it is to just have the move offhand to go like, yes, this plus this equals a good board position.
Yeah, that's that's exactly right. So he's definitely taking the game seriously and learning some hard truths. If you just memorize opening moves and play them against everything, it's not going to work out because openings can be very concrete. So a much better approach for beginners is to try to understand fundamental opening principles, like developing your pieces, fighting for space, making sure to castle, controlling the center, rather than learning specific lines. Once you feel like you understand the principles, then you can learn some basic lines. Like if you're playing e4, you can learn Ruy Lopez, you can learn something against the Sicilian, and so on. But yeah, without understanding the fundamental principles, you're gonna be playing like the computer and just playing like random moves in the opening without a real sense of purpose.
Also, I didn't really know what capturing a pawn en passant was, so
That's
that got a
important.
little awkward. Capturing en passant is the one time in chess where a pawn captures another pawn without landing on the square it's capturing. This can only happen after a pawn has jumped 2 spaces out of its opening position. So if the pawn on my A file moves here, this black pawn has the option to capture only on its next move in passing, or en passant. The reason for this move, I believe, is because of how valuable pass pawns become in the endgame, and you don't want to have a pass pawn just getting a clear file right to the end without having the option to capture. From here?
That's kind of true. I don't know what the official reason was for en passant, but I've always understood it as without this rule, it'd be very easy to get a blocked position. Because yeah, like there with black's pawn on b4, if white goes a4, then black never gets a chance to capture this pawn, never gets a chance to open the file. So en passant is a kind of a nice rule to fight against the chance of every position just becoming very blocked up.
I realize I'm going to have to significantly improve my in-game decision-making, and I need to broaden my understanding of openings so I'm not getting jumped by a surprise opening strategy.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. I mean, having to learn end games, openings, and of course like middle games and tactics and all this stuff, it's not easy. There's only so far you can get in 30 days. But I feel like he's kind of doing the right thing. I get the sense that he's trying to focus on the fundamentals, or at least figure out what the fundamentals are and focus on that. And that's good because, I mean, really what you want to be thinking about here is not necessarily just how to get the most in 30 days, but how to progress the most, for your chess overall in the long run. and usually that means like developing like good study habits and building good fundamentals and making use of your time very efficiently in terms of how effectively you're studying. Okay, it looks like he was playing the Caro there. It looks like, I don't know. Oh, looks like maybe the French. Yeah, he's studying the specific moves of the opening, but I'm not sure how useful it is to know that. I think it's, again, more important to understand the ideas, why we play d4 and fight for space.
I start working my way through online lessons and challenges to improve my instincts for reading the board and to help me make smarter decisions during the mid-game and end-game sections of a match. And with each new game I play, I go back afterward and evaluate the mistakes I made to see what I could have done different.
That's very important. Going over your games is, yeah, one of the most important things to do to improve your chess. I don't like how he keeps playing against the computer on chess.com. It's just not a good trading partner. Because the computer, okay, calculates in its own weird way, comes up with strange moves. Sometimes the moves make no sense, but they crush you anyway because the computer has much better tactics than you do. And it's basically not very instructive, in my view, to play against the computer. I think he should be just playing online games against real people, even if they're crushing him, if they're much stronger players. I think it would be a lot more useful than just playing against the engine. Because, well, humans make human moves and you just get more experience against the way humans approach the position. Whereas the computer is going to be playing kind of in a strange way against you, and it's not going to be that useful or relevant in the long run.
So tonight is the last night of this challenge. I'm about to go inside to the Annex Chess Club to play my rematch against Salim. I really don't want to blow this one. I've had a lot of bad games this week where I blew it early with poor decisions. So I'm just going to try and stay locked in, stay focused, and maybe I'll even walk out of this with a win.
I mean, I think he's probably still going to lose to the 1500 rated player. That guy seemed pretty solid. There's no way he's going to get that far in 30 days. But I'm pretty sure he's going to do much better this time around. I mean, he'll probably play e4, get some kind of normal position out of the opening. And yeah, my prediction is maybe he'll blunder a pawn somewhere and like slowly get ground down. But I feel like it'll be more of a closer game. He's not going to give up his queen so easily and so on.
In what's become known as the match of the century, Bobby Fischer competed against the Soviet Union's Boris Spassky for the World Championship. In an attempt to throw his opponent off, Fischer opted to start the game with c4, moving into the Queen's Gambit decline, a line he'd never used before in competitive play.
That's true.
So, in my
the famous Game 6, one of the best games in the Fischer-Spassky match.
own rematch against Salim, I did not go with that strategy, sticking with the only line I've studied and feel any confidence in playing.
Yeah, no, it would be crazy to spend 30 days studying e4 and then just play c4 on move 1. Okay, so it looks like he played the Sicilian with e6, so interesting. We'll see if he's going to go for the Khan or for the Taimanov here.
And I've included the whole game sped up.
Okay, Khan, and wow, he played bishop d3, so this guy, he knows his stuff. Bishop d3 is not the only move, but one of the main moves for white here, and yeah, I think it's not an accident. He found it. Nice.
So there's no disguising how well I do.
Okay, bishop e3 I would say is not super common here. Normally white plays queen e2 first, or even goes c4. But actually, I feel like b5 here is kind of an inaccuracy from black. I mean, he's kind of sticking to the typical Khan setup. But since white hasn't developed the knight to c3 yet, playing b5 here is actually too early, because white can play a4 and challenge this b pawn immediately, and if black pushes forward to b4, then white gets the c4 square for the knight. White goes knight d2, knight c4. If white's knight is already on c3 and white goes a4, then after b4 it's nothing special, because the knight has to kind of go to some kind of awkward place. But here with the knight still on b1, playing b5 here I think is too early because of this a4 idea, just ripping open the queen side. Instead, I think he should have just played like d6, knight bd7 first, and then eventually white has to choose, either playing c4 or playing knight c3. Okay, he goes knight d2, which I guess is good, but he really should be playing a4 here. But okay, if he hasn't seen this idea, then he might not come up with it over the board. Okay, knight e2 is weird. Yeah, now it's clear he's kind of just playing on his own. I feel like I've noticed him make a lot of retreating moves in this video. Like, he played like knight e5 back to f3 earlier, now he's playing knight d4 back to e2 for no particular reason. So this is something he has to kind of get over, because the knight on d4 is obviously more active, and retreating it for no reason is like kind of spending a whole tempo and then also making a piece less active. And yeah, clearly there's a lot more useful moves he could have made, a4, you know, f4, and so on. b4 is not really necessary in this position, but okay. a4 here is still going to be good for white if he can play it. Okay, I like that he at least maneuvered the knight to g3, so it seems like he had some plan with knight d4. Maybe that was his idea. Put the knight on g3, now the queen can come to f3. Looks like he's trying to go for the kingside play. Maybe even go knight h5 somewhere. Objectively, I think black should be totally fine. White hasn't really developed so comfortably here. His pawn should really be on f4, stopping the black's knight from coming to e5. So I imagine black is going to play knight e5 soon. Looks like he's reaching for his bishop to play bishop b7, but I think he should just be playing knight e5 right away before the queen has any more squares. But okay, whatever. Oh, a4, nice. Knight e5. Queen has to go back. Ooh, he takes on d3 and white instantly grabs with the queen. Yeah, I'm not sure either player is correct here. For black, I don't see why he should take on d3 without forcing white to play like f4 or something. I guess he was worried about his b5 pawn. And then for white, I feel like cd3 here is probably the correct recapture. So you can then fight for the c file. With queen takes d3, I think white is just going to be clearly worse, with the c pawn being a big weakness. And black is just going to play some rook to c8 very soon. Or maybe he's still worried about the b5 pawn, so he'll go like bishop c6 or something. But still, black is better with the light squared bishop. Still though, he's doing much better than the first game, of course. Oh, d5. Yeah, definitely a thematic move. Okay, b5. Takes. Yeah, so he had some concrete idea of what he's doing. Obviously, he blundered bishop a6, although it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. He can go queen a4, and then black's rook is hanging. Black would have to go back like bishop b7 or queen b7. So white is not losing the exchange, but yeah, clearly he blundered this move, but okay, yeah, I'm not going to really expect him to be calculating super well. I think when he played b5, he just saw as far as he's trading the pawns. Let's see if he finds queen a4 though. That would be a nice move. Okay, bishop b6 is an attempt for a counterattack. It's definitely a reasonable idea. It just doesn't work. Black can take the queen and then take the rook. Yeah, he finds that. Now it's basically lost. Okay, that's just a piece blunder. And good technique from black here. Stalemate, always last chance strategy, and nice mate.
And that's checkmate, isn't it?
You started really well. You started actually following proper theory. With the it's called the open Sicilian, when you push trying to
yeah, this guy's like, wow, he knew bishop d3. How do you know that move? Jeez.
Claim the center for you and fight for the center, and that's exactly what you have to do. And I think you've played some very good moves initially. Nothing wrong with the way you opened.
Well, that's good.
Last time we played, you were
That's
jumping
fair.
around with your knight everywhere. But this time you try to develop fast and get in the action very quickly. Maybe try to get the initiative. We were really quite advanced in the game when you made your first serious mistake.
That was when we swapped. I wanted to swap queens, but then I wound up losing a rook in exchange for a bishop.
That's good. I mean, I don't know if you told him, but yeah, he correctly knows exactly where he went wrong when black played bishop a6. Bishop b6 was losing material. I mean, he was already worse there, but that's when he just ends up losing material.
Which, Didn't go great.
Until that mistake, you were doing pretty fine. We were even in material, and you're getting there very fast, actually.
Thank you.
A few more games, a few more books, and you'll be ready for a competition for sure.
So I didn't win, but I played a much stronger game than I would have been capable of at the start of this challenge, and to answer what is probably the elephant in the room for a lot of you, no, a 1500 ranked player is not a chess master, not by any stretch. And I intentionally didn't set up this challenge with that goal in mind, because I was advised 30 days of training just wouldn't mean anything against a player of that experience and caliber.
That's good advice. I'm glad this guy has some real chess friends to tell him that, yeah, 30 days is not close to enough at all, to challenge an actual master. I mean, I think to challenge just like an experienced 1500 in 30 days is already very difficult. But I totally agree. I think he actually did get quite a lot done in 30 days, mainly by kind of just like focusing on the fundamentals. I feel like he spent a little bit too much time focusing on the actual opening moves and less on, let's say, why certain moves and structures are better than others. But yeah, overall, pretty good.
And I did want to have at least the underdog's chance of winning in the final game. What I loved about this challenge, though, and about the game of chess in general, is how beautifully simple it is, yet how infinitely complicated it becomes the moment you dedicate any serious practice or study to it. It's also a game that demands a level of focus where you can spend 30 to 40 minutes in complete silence, weighing options, processing decisions, that you almost enter a type of flow state where everything else drifts into the background and the only thing you care about is the game at hand.
That's very true. I feel like I've heard a lot of chess players experience this, I think when you're in a game and you're in the zone and feeling it, it's a very, very cool feeling. I think that's one of the main things that brings people back to chess. They like that feeling of kind of like solving problems at the board and feeling successful.
Which is great. And I want to thank Salim and the Axe Chess Club for their help on this challenge, and I want to thank chess.com for sponsoring this video. Now, this is a slightly different sponsorship partnership than we've done before, where I actually reached out to them because I was using their website every day to practice for this challenge, and I'm really glad they said yes to sponsoring us. Not only is chess.com home to millions of chess players from around the world you can compete and play against, chess.com also offers educational videos, lessons, and in-game analysis to help you develop as a player. One of the resources I've been hearing rave reviews about is Puzzle Rush. Which is time challenges that get exponentially harder the more...
I wonder if I actually didn't know chess.com was sponsoring this video. But that kind of makes sense. He's like reaching out to them. Yeah, I'm trying to improve my chess. Will you sponsor me? I mean, I think it totally makes sense for both sides. I wonder if that was one of the requirements. It's like, okay, we'll sponsor you, but you got to plug Puzzle Rush.
The more you improve. Chess.com is a great resource to have, both if you're a starting out player as I was, or if you're a seasoned tournament player who's looking to take the next step in your game. We've included a partner link below, so not only will you get access to chess.com and all of their resources, you also help support this channel and the videos we make. And who knows, maybe we'll play a game sometime.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think that was a pretty good video. I feel like he did really good, considering, again, he only had 30 days, and okay, he definitely made some mistakes. Like I mentioned, I would have had him play a lot more against human players and not play against the computer at all. In fact, the only thing I would have him use a computer for is to simply check his games and look for like potential tactics that he missed, and then review those. I think for those purposes, the computer is actually extremely useful, just to highlight, hey, you missed a tactic on this move, you missed a better defense on this move. For sure, in this game, the computer will point out that instead of bishop b6 that he played, losing the exchange, he could have played queen a4, and the game would have definitely been much more close. Yeah, maybe a little bit too much focus on the exact opening moves, because it doesn't really help you to know what opening theory is if you're not really understanding kind of the broader purpose and philosophy behind good opening play. So for that, I would have recommended that he maybe read one of the classic opening books. Like Sarawan's Winning Chess Openings, I think, is a really good one. There are tons of other great books and videos, of course. And yeah, just focusing more on the ideas behind opening moves and kind of the philosophy and what you're playing for. I also think as far as the repertoire goes, he maybe should have stuck with d4, because with d4 you get more of a simpler game. To me, it feels like he wasn't so much of a tactical player, but more of a strategic player, just trying to slowly outplay his opponent and look for mistakes. And I think d4 would very much suit his style better. But okay, overall, pretty interesting video, and yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. Hope you guys enjoyed it.